What is going on, guys? How are we all doing? Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen all right? Just let me know. Are we all good? Who have we got here today? M2, how you doing, dude? Good to see you. Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. All good. My newborn is now 1 month old, so still not getting very much sleep, of course. But yeah, feeling relatively fresh despite that. What's going on, Ghost Charts? How you doing? Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are. What's up, Ange? How you doing, buddy? Just give everyone a few minutes to trickle in. How's everyone been? People active in the markets, taking some time off, touching grass, focusing on reflection. What's the crack? Yeah, and apologies. I think there's enough rooms and hallways in between myself and the baby, but if you hear any whisperings of baby crying, then apologies. Should be fine though. Wife's got the memo. What's the crack? Yeah. Not spelt like that though, Angelo. That's how my mother-in-law spells it. She's from Dublin. It's more what's the crack? Crack in a London sense, my friend. Anyway, let's dig into the charts. All right, let's do a full analysis of the market, full scan. We'll get into everything today, okay? So let's start with BTC Top Down. So I'm going to be doing these week on week, basically just updating everything as I'm seeing from the top down, from the monthly to the hourly, etc. All the way down just to see how the market is moving, yeah, the ongoing dynamic of the market, and just seeing how price evolves, looking for opportunities, setups, etc., etc. So from the monthly, nothing changed as from last week, of course. Still very much range bound in this area up here. Still overextended on the monthly, as we touched on last week. Not a cause for concern, particularly because, yeah, the RSI can stay very overextended for long periods, as you can see here. Touched into the overextension on this candle here, and then did this, right? So no major cause for concern on that side of things. Would be more so if we had some sort of divergent structure on the AO, which we don't have. We can see that this was a divergence here. This is definitely not a divergence here, just a sign of continuing momentum. Just so you guys are aware, I've updated the stream, so it should be 1440p. Can you guys just let me know in the chat if you're seeing it in 1440? Also, if you could let me know if it defaulted to 1440 or if you had to toggle it, would be very helpful. So the weekly, again, no major cause for concern, simply bracketing and range bound up here. Took out the low, took out the high, simply contained in this range up here, right? So this isn't a divergence, right? Because this may look like a divergence on the oscillators, but price didn't come up here and close above here, right? So there's no higher high on price to diverge against, and no major cause for concern in this area, okay? Now we go down to the 3-day, things get quite interesting, okay? So the 3-day RSI is exactly at midpoint, right? So it's essentially bounce time now, or we start moving underneath this 50 level, but we haven't seen it go under the 50 really since September the 6th, which is 150 days ago, as you can see in this sort of area here, right? We still haven't ever been up like under the RSI since that point. And it's a very key moment on the 3-day now for the RSI to hold, to withhold, and then move upwards. Otherwise, looking at slightly lower time frames, we may come down to sweep this wick again, right? So this is a ripe low for taking here in terms of a sweep play. You can see that basically the RSI has been lost on the daily, but it's been very choppy, right? So I'm not really using this as a parameter. It's been super choppy in this area, right? And not as clean as the 3-day signals here. We can see it's a clean double test on support at mid. Holding on and doing a good job in doing so at the moment. But it's either a bounce at this point on the 3-day or we go lower to take out liquidity. You can see we've got 2 lows right for the taking here. Okay, so a move like this wouldn't be surprising at all. Okay, sweep all the liquidity, bounce back up, and we can treat this as a clean sweep of the range lows as well, even though we've already swept them. Something like this, right? So my thoughts on BTC, generally speaking, are we take the 3-day midpoint RSI and bounce from around this area, or we come down, really take out these lows aggressively, and then reverse, reclaim the low of the range, and then move up to fresh highs. $12-hour, nothing particularly of interest here. 8-hour, same story, and 6. All right, you can see the weekend volatility period we've just had in action here. All right, absolutely fuck all going on here. Very lackluster price action. And again, yeah, just a magnified view of that there, right? So this is the weekend price action here. So when the markets are very trending, sometimes weekends can be their time to trade. At the moment, it's very much gone back to quite a silent market across both BTC, ETH, and the alts, right? So as you can see here, weekends are not the time to be touching anything. Take some time off, touch grass, reflect, journal, whatever you need to do, but try and stay away from the mouse, essentially. Okay, so that's the BTC analysis. As you know, Bitcoin very much in its own bull market, raging onwards as everything is getting decimated. But let's take a look at some of the other markets. We can take a look at ETH. Monthly, still in good stead, right? It's still in good stead. We're still holding this midpoint here on the RSI. Okay, so still holding this point here. This is a key level to hold, right? So we've been above this point here since this point down here, August 23, and this is a very, very key point to hold on ETH. If we go down to the slightly lower time frames, I was talking about this zone of weekly origin demand on ETH last stream. Okay, I expected there to be a tap into this zone for us to likely defend market structure, i.e. bull step in to defend the trend, and we do something like this, right? Start moving up. We got a much more aggressive capitulation candle than expected, and this is a sort of mixed signal move in the markets from my perspective in terms of my system, being that it's invalidated the demand that was formed as it struck through that. As you can see, it's cut through that zone, but it also didn't take out this low here. Okay. So a very mixed bag. But yeah, as you can see, a nice weekly candle has formed as well, right? So yeah, we've got a lot of things going on here. Essentially, we would have liked to see this low aggressively taken out, ideally, to give us more credence for an argument to the upside. But as you know, markets aren't perfect. We've had a lot of front runs of sweeps recently over the last 6 months. This could be another one of those cases. Nothing much on the 3-day. Daily starting to get more interesting with the RSI's positioning down here at the 30s. But then if we go down to the 12-hour, this was really where my eyes were on. Okay, so I was looking ideally for a 12-hour divergence to form. Typically, after we see these large capitulation events, and what was this here? A 38% move from this high, and then 48 from the highs up here. A very significant move indeed. Typically, when we see these moves, we very, very rarely V, right? We very, very rarely V reverse this and do something like this, right? That is a very, very rare case of events. 1 in 10, 1 in 20, maybe even less likely than that by my experience. The more likely outcome is to basically form a divergence in this area. And we see that very often in terms of continuation plays. What I mean by that is continuation to the upside, not the downside, right? If we're seeing basically continuation to the downside from here, then it is simply another puke, right? Something like this. Okay, so range, cool off the oscillators here, form a lower time frame range, and then continue to the downside. If we're seeing moves to the upside, then it's just simply a divergence that forms, okay? So sweats everyone that was longing in this area, okay, by just grinding down, capitulating everyone out of their positions in a time-based sense, moving somewhere down here, tempting in more shorts that go, okay, cool, this is now puking again, and we're going to take this to the downside, like so. Locks in the divergence, and then moves up, right? So a very, very common pattern we see after these large sell-off events, right, is just simply a divergence to form. My eyes are on the 12-hour, on the 8-hour in this regard. So form the div here. Price puts in a low low. Oscillators, higher lows. Something like this. But the timing of this sell-off, moving then into the weekend, wasn't ideal because essentially nothing's happened over the weekend, as we saw on BTC and market-wide across the crypto markets. As a result, it's made this divergent structure much less appealing because we're now stretching into 13 bars acceptable, right? But anything that starts drifting plus 20s here would be, yeah, very much invalidated in terms of a divergence forming, just too widely stretched, right? Structurally speaking, that's not a valid divergence. So at the moment, if we come down, go for another leg down, I'd like to see it be a fairly aggressive one, at least taking us down to this sort of area here. Try and get that RSI as overextended as possible or as close to the 30 level as possible, even if it can't fully extend. Do what the AO does and then start reversing. That would be the ideal sort of move to the upside in terms of Ethereum by my eyes in my system. Yeah, not much to report on the 864 4 looking pretty bleak, to be honest here. As you can see, we treat this as a sort of SR level here on the RSI. We can see that it's now retesting that underside very clearly. And that's what I meant by 4 continuations to the downside. The oscillator's reset. You can see that it came down, right? Got completely overextended. Came down to the 16.8s here. Then comes up, cools off. Price not really doing anything much, right? Bar going sideways. But the oscillators come up to valid points of resets where they can then go for more legs down, basically. That's what I mean by oscillator resets. I have a full video on divergences in my YouTube channel within the trading course. Feel free to check that out as well. That will give you a bit more clarity on RSI and how I interpret RSI. So yeah, again to the one, it's just low weekend volatility period. Yeah, okay. Right, what next? Defaulted to 1080 but toggled to 1440. Is that working nicely? Yeah, nice one, DW. Good to see you, man. Hey Flo, what do you think about Trump mentioning he will put tariff on a lot of countries this coming week? I don't take any sort of macroeconomic events into my trading process. It's simply chart-based, Caddy. Simply chart-based analysis. Okay, so we're looking at the deltas here. Delta's actually in a healthy position, right? So we can start with BTC, in fact. Yeah, in a largely healthy position, the deltas. Because and the deltas have been so fucking clean recently. It's actually, I mean, it goes time and time again. I say this is my most valuable tool in crypto. And you can see here, come down, cluster, move, come up, huge candle, move, come down, huge candle, move again, and liquidations to support as well in that capitulation event. But now what we can see is Delta has been largely skewed to the negative side, right? As you can see, there's a lot more going on here than there is up here in the blues. Essentially what that means is all the market selling that's occurring in this area, right? All the retail participants that are shitting their pants and thinking this is going lower and lower are getting absorbed, or what in this sense, what we call propped up by a bidder or bidders. Right, so we're getting propped up by the stronger hands in the market that operate in limit form, right? Big entities, organizations, high net worth individuals, etc., do not operate in market orders. I can tell you this for a sure fact. I've worked within multiple hedge funds myself and know that the large participants in the market operate within limit form. So it's what we generally as an umbrella term refer to as the stronger hand in the markets, and you can see here that in crystal clear action here, right? So skewed to the negative side, retail market selling into limit bids, and you can see that both across BTC and then ETH as well. Okay, so the deltas are in a particularly healthy position. So we have multiple pieces of analysis to sort of dissect between BTC and ETH, and that's why it's good to use things like Delta to give you a holistic view of what's going on. Right. Just to go back to deltas as well. Yeah, Finn, we're taking a look at Sol. No worries. So the value of Delta, just to sort of hit it home once again, is that, you know, versus heat maps, a lot of people in the markets use heat maps. They think it's sort of a magic sauce. But heat maps will only show you where limits are intended, right? So where limits have been placed, let's say there's a huge wall here at 90K of bids. Those can get pulled. Deltas are after the fact, right? So it's only after the fact occurred, after that absorption took place, after that propping took place, whereby market selling occurred significantly into bids. It then produces this delta, right? So there's no sort of hearsay. It's after the fact, it's happened, right? So there's no argument to whether it will happen or not. There's no prediction. It's simply what has happened in the market, and you can see it very clearly here. You know, aggressive market selling into suppression, right? Opposite of propping, suppression. Aggressive market buying, sorry, into asks, producing a huge amount of positive delta. What this is telling us is that there's loads of retail that are market buying, right? Getting horny for higher ETH prices, whilst there is a huge participant in the market suppressing prices through his asks. Okay, so it's after the fact, right? We only action our trades after we've seen what's happened. We're not in the business of guessing or predicting, right? We see what's happened and take our moves after. Give me 2 minutes, guys. I'm just gonna grab a drink of water. Okay, back in the room. So yeah, I wanted to take a look at dominance today as well. I haven't looked at dominance in a while. We'll be on here the weekly. Okay. So a lot of questions at the moment about alts, bull markets, alt season, what's happening, right? What is happening to the markets at the moment? A very difficult question to sort of dissect, but to keep it as simple as possible, we can take a look at Bitcoin dominance, which is essentially the best marker for an alt season alongside ETH BTC. Right, so basically the last two cycles, we've had the halving, 33 weeks of sideways activity basically. And then after 33 weeks post-halving, we get our alt season, right? So this happened in 2016 and 2020 as well. You can see here, 33 bars, right? So halving here, 33 weeks of basically from the point of the halving to 33 weeks afterwards, we're at exactly the same position in dominance. And then we get a huge move to the downside. Once again, obviously the 2017 glory days were the biggest we've had so far on the dominance chart. But yeah, so I was here during this. I was obviously here during this as well. Some of you may not have been here for this. Remember the mania that was occurring. But I'm sure many of you do remember this. Okay, so basically these are the two fractals that we have to go off. And you can see that this time what we've had is the first section from blue to green, right? Halving to 33 weeks afterwards, has played well, right? So again, from the point at which the halving occurred to 33 weeks afterwards, not much happened, right? So we're at exactly the same point in dominance as we were from here to here, and here to here, of course, as well. The difference being what we're seeing now is no sell-off, right? So we're seeing no sell-off. From this point here, I thought personally we were going to see this. Right, I was pretty vocal about this on Twitter. I was looking at ETH BTC as well. But we haven't at all, okay? And like, look, like fractals are basically all we have to go off, right? So anyone that's telling you with utter certainty that they're looking at this chart and knowing what's happening is probably a LARP, because all we have to go off are 2 data points, right? The last previous cycles. And although we have some arguments to topping out here, right? Being this could be just a slight deviation of the norm, right? Instead of going directly down 33 weeks afterwards, we're going to muck around a little bit up here. Let's say, you know, macroeconomic influences have taken their play in this, and this isn't playing exactly to a T as the fractal dictates. But yeah, although we have some arguments to topping here, which namely are the awesome oscillator here on the weekly, a very strong divergence. And then the candle structure here of the weekly, right? Large wick to the upside. Okay, this is a very interesting weekly candle on dominance indeed. That being said, despite having these signals, I can't say with very much certainty what's going to happen, right? And that's me telling the honest truth. I still have exposure, right? I still have spot bags. If you're curious, I'm still holding all altcoins. But I'm holding them with, you know, very much the understanding that they could all go to zero, right? This could be the cycle where Bitcoin just takes center stage, everything else bleeds out. Who am I to say, right? Who am I to say from an investment standpoint? That's why, you know, with my trades, very much been taking trades level to level, right? If I see any strong impulses in the market, this has been the setup for me recently, and members of my group will know this very well. Right, looking primarily for horizontal breakouts. So price comes up when the market's getting slightly frothy, consolidates underneath, moves up, breaks out. Right, so we've got our consolidation underneath a breakout level. Take the trade. Stop underneath consolidation. Normally taking it for somewhere around 3R, and that's not because that's a set statistic for me, but purely because we seem to get large impulses around this area. So price comes up, does something like this, starts moving up, and then we get one nice spike up impulse, and then I close out when I see prices basically just been moving aggressively. Members of my group will know I've been doing this over and over again, rinsing and repeating, not holding anything in a position trade sense, right? I'm not holding things to go higher and higher and higher in a trading sense. That's what my spot bags are there for if we get a proper bull market, if we get a proper alt season. But on the trading side, just taking very simple setups, realizing gains when things look like they've got a bit too frothy, and then just looking for the next setup. Okay. So what are you going to do with alts? Yeah, I hope I just answered that. I've got a spot portfolio. I'm still holding the spot portfolio. Do I know what will happen with that spot portfolio? Absolutely not. If I lose it all, would I be devastated? Absolutely not, right? Okay, it's not enough for me to care that much because I simply don't have a clear read on the market. I want exposure because crypto is my bread and butter, right? Historically, most of the money I've made has been in bull runs. I don't know which way the wind will blow. If it does blow in my favor, I do want exposure. Am I lynching everything I have on it? Absolutely not. Right, so let's move on to Sol. Weekly, looking very solid still, right? So despite taking out this high here, all-time highs, which is a very bearish pattern by my eyes. This is what I consider an LSOH, a local sweep of historic, right? So this is the historic level, and this is the local sweep, right? So we've swept the historic level, and now we've come up to sweep the local as well, here being the local. So by that nature, really not liking what we're seeing up here, but the weekly RSI is looking in a very strong position here. We're still defending this low in terms of market structure. If we flick over to the line chart, we can see that very clearly as well. Okay, just clearly in an uptrend, haven't lost any lows in the process, right? 0 lows have been lost here apart from this low here. Defended, 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 and at the point of defense again here. Okay, so a critical time for Sol, in my opinion, as it is for ETH as well. Three-day hovering around mid. Again, you can see that defensive market structure very clearly, and on the daily as well. Okay, so defending that low, defending that low, defending that low. So if we start losing market structure in this regard, then things start to look very different. If we wick below and close above, that's fine. All right, if we take out this low and close above, no problem there. But if we start losing this low and holding underneath, right, we can see a very nice daily SR level here as well that I've just sort of danced around with the arrow tool. So from here to here, maybe pull it across like so. Okay, very clean SR level. If we start closing underneath this daily level, holding here and moving lower, then it's a very, very worrying sign for Sol. But as things stand, and this would probably give a lot more credence to the move that happened to the upside, that's the follow through taking place. But at current, things aren't looking too bad, right? We're into this sort of cluster here of liquidity. And we are defending market structure as of today, right? Until this low is lost, nothing too worrying is taking place. So we can take a look at a couple of other, markets that were taking up a lot of mind share recently. Let's start with Fart. Never thought I'd say those words on stream, but there you go. There's a first for everything. So, as you know, Fartcoin was the golden child. Now it's down 85%, I believe, or thereabouts. 81 as of today, 85 to the low. Lost this key level here. Right, so lost that level. Now doing what we were worried about on Sol, retesting it from the underside. So higher time frames, right? The higher time frames being the daily here on Fart, as it's a relatively new asset. Not looking great at all, right? Looking pretty cooked. But then the lower time frames are looking slightly more promising. So starting with a 12-hour, we can see the AO giving us some very interesting signals here. Higher lows, diverging against lower lows. Okay, and then if you go down to the 8-hour, we've got a triple humped AO divergence. Members of my group, again, will know how much emphasis I place on these when we see triple humps, 1, 2, 3, against price. That's a very strong signal for reversal. So if that were to play out, maybe something like this is on the cards, right? Reclaim this level here and then start moving up, perhaps. But at the moment, it's a mixed bag, right? We have two completely contradictory signals on Fart. Daily looks cooked, lost key level. 12-hour and 8-hour giving us interesting signals for reversals. How do you play that? Best wait for a reclaim, right? So wait for a reclaim up here, make sure that daily is looking better, and then play into that as opposed to taking the risk down here. That's what I do anyway. And that's from a spot or trading perspective, however you want to interpret it. Okay, what next? Hype. Let's take a look at Hype. What's going on, BTC? So I haven't been scanning the markets very actively recently. I'd be interested to run through and if there are any markets that you guys are aware of that have been particularly strong, please whack them in the chat box. And yeah, would love to take a look at those as well, if there are any. So Hyperliquid, very much range bound, right? So looking at the daily, we're just hovering around the mid. We're around this range here. And it's as simple as that, okay? So on the lower time frames, we had a breakout previously, unsustained, as you can tell. We go down to the 4-hour here. So I was running through this with members of my group as well, as and when it was occurring. So we had so let's run through this setup, and we can use it from an educational perspective as well. So 3 clear touch points to validate this level, right? So 3+ is validation for a level, especially horizontal levels, which are much more objective rather than trend lines that can be largely subjective and redrawn. So this is a credible level here. What we don't like to see, as you guys know, is too much left side price action here. So we ideally want to take these breakouts into clean air. We don't want to be taking it into price action, basically, because what can happen is we can get the breakout. It can move into either supply, for instance, or sweep a high, like so. And do this, and then come back down. Right, instead what we had is a divergence, right? I'm pretty sure it was primarily the 2-hour. Yeah. So a very, very strong diverging structure here, right? And I didn't take this trade for 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons, really. The first being the left side price action. The second being this divergence here. Right? So price clearly making higher highs, and then the oscillators making lower highs. Yeah, very, very severe divergence here across the RSI. You can see as well these 2 spikes, very aggressive. And then you have the AO to support that divergence as well. The third reason I didn't take the trade is because, as you guys know, if you watch my breakout videos in my trading course on YouTube, I always want to see consolidation prior to the break, right? So we would have had to see price range in this area here. Right, reset the oscillators again, what we were talking about earlier on in the stream. Give price the momentum and substance it needs to make a proper breakout trade occur, and then take the long here. Right, so take the long on the breakout candle close, stop underneath consolidation, take it higher. That's my playbook for breakouts, right? Very, very simple stuff. What we want to see is consolidation prior to the break. What we want to see is a valid level, right? Given credence by how many touch points it's taken, and the distance between those touch points as well. We want good gaps between the touch points. What we don't want to see is divergences as that breakout occurs. We don't want to see it into left side price action, ideally. And we don't want to see it without consolidation. So I asked you guys to put any strong markets in the chat, and all I've got is, can you look at BNB? I'm taking it. I haven't missed much. We can take a look at BNB. First off, I just want to have a look at XRP as well. These are the 3 sort of alt markets I want to take a look at outside of ETH and Sol. I want to look at XRP on Upbit and do a top-down approach of XRP as well. So as you can see, looking at historical data, right, we're taking out this high here, January 18. So that's as simple as it comes from the monthly perspective. The most overextended it's been as well. XRP had a huge rally, as you're all aware. Now the weekly starting to look very sticky here. Okay. This is a nasty weekly divergence across XRP. Three-day. Now we still have that divergence on the RSI, and now we have that double confirmation with AO supporting it. Two clean humps, lower highs. Now going on to the daily, Upbit has very different data to what occurred, let's say, on a more reliable market such as Binance. So you can see that we have a bullish argument now for XRP, with the 1.9 lows being taken incredibly aggressively, with lots of speed and velocity. And sorry to reference the trading course again, but if you guys have seen my speed video, you'll know that I want to see all the sweeps video. You'll know that when I see sweeps occur, it has to be done with either speed or a divergence. Ideally speed, though, to be honest, out of the two. And you can see that this was very much done aggressively and with speed. So again, going back to the sort of capitulation candles that occurred across BTC and ETH, this is the kind of price structure you want to see, followed by a divergence in this area and then a move to the upside. Okay, so the lower time frames not looking as bad at all as the higher time frames on XRP. And you can see the AO now starting to really curl up to the upside here. And the 6 hour again. Okay. But then we also have the oscillators retesting the midpoints across these sort of 4 to 8 hour time frames as well. So yeah, I haven't taken a trade. As you can see, there's a lot of contradictory signals in the markets. I haven't taken a trade in the last week, partly because of my personal circumstance, having just had a kid. But then also largely because these aren't conditions I like to operate in. We have a lot of conflicting signals, a lot of unresolved business in the markets. Would much rather participate when things are more directional, operating with more conviction, and easier to sort of settle into a position without second guessing myself. So that's pretty much it for me today, guys. If you guys have any more questions, any more markets you'd like me to look at, please post them in the chat. I can look at BNB for Ghost quickly. Whilst I'm doing so, please post in any other tickers you want to see, why you want to see them, anything you want me to particularly look at, any questions you've got on the markets. I'm happy to do so. Thank you, Slow. Appreciate it. Been a hell of a ride, but a beautiful one. BNB, let's go top down again. Why not? Weekly, again, pivotal moment at mid. You're starting to see the pattern across the markets now. Weekly in good stead, right? Weekly in very good stead here. As you can see, a very different picture across line. Very different picture indeed, right? Three-day, lost the mid. Daily, bouncing from the overextended region, the oversold. Yeah, I mean, with overextensions like this on reliable and strong markets, you are very likely to see these dips be very short-lived. So wouldn't get too gassed up about this bounce in the markets. You know what they say, even a dead cat bounces, and you can see that it could just purely be off the back of this overextension on the RSI. You can see it here, right? So we dip down and we don't stay there for very long at all, right? Price does not like staying around in these oversold regions or overbought. And it could be that we're just basically bouncing out of that region, coming up to any sort of decent point in the RSI to reset the oscillator, and then going for the next leg down is very plausible. Right, you can see that reset here on the 12. Fours. Not the worst picture on the 4. We can see a nice range reclaim here. So yeah, mixed signals on BNB as well. Nothing particularly actionable. Sui. Let's have a look. Straight down to mid again, right? Exactly at the midpoint once again on Sui. Front run this demand pocket here. Only just. Three-day lost the mid. Quite a critical move for Sui there. Let's see if we're starting to see any divergences. Yeah, as I expected. 12 hours starting to diverge now here. These legs. So there's a lot of 12 and under divergences forming market-wide against the winds of the higher time frame signals. So we have to see how these all play out, whether they do form and provide strong impulses. Still diverging on the 8 here, just. So it's an interesting week ahead, right? A lot of major decisions on the markets from a chart-based perspective, and keen to see how they unfold. Until they do, I'm not taking any positions. Right? This is a time of decision in the markets, not a time of action, and this is a time where I very much sit on my hands, enjoy some good food, enjoy some hobbies, look at my journals, spend time doing other things, and wait for the market to resolve itself in a more directional manner before I'm willing to step in and put my cash on the line. Ichimoku Cloud E2E play on BTC at the moment. Nice. I wouldn't know. Yeti. I don't use Ichimoku, but appreciate the insight. Are alts going to zero if BTC nukes? Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much already there. They're pretty much already there, apart from the majors that I've covered. So yeah, especially if you're in the lower caps. My low cap bags at the moment looking absolutely decimated. Not even checking them, right? It's zero or hero, and an amount that I'm happy to take that stance on with. NYAN. Oh, here we go. Talk of the devil. And one of the members brings up one of my low cap bags. Haven't looked at them in ages. Yeah, let's have a look now. Let's feel really good about your holdings. Yeah, so it's just lost this level, dude. It's in a shoddy state. In a shoddy state. A breakout of trend line from 20th of July, in line with ETH and BTC, of course. I imagine you're talking about this. Oh wait, from here? What are you talking about, Angelo? This? I imagine you're talking about something like this, right? For a trend line. Either way, in a shoddy state, right? So we're into the overextended region on the daily. First time it's been in this area, to be honest. So yeah, like we were seeing on BNB, a very plausible move to get a bounce in this area. But that being said, we've lost this key SR level here. And there's nothing good looking about this chart until we get the reclaim and then confirm the deviation in this area here. 20th of July high here. What trend line is there here? Let's go through it in the group, dude. Just post it in the lounge. We can have a look at it again. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap up here. Been great touching in with you guys as always. I'm gonna keep these streams going week on week so I can help guide you through the markets and my perspective of the markets as it evolves. Yeah, if you have any questions for me, prepare them for next week. We'll likely keep the same slot going just for consistency and so you guys can plan around it. We'll be doing the announcements on Twitter, YouTube, etc., etc. So keep tabs on me. And yeah, look forward to